Okay, let's go to work on this next exercise in perspective drawing. What I'm going to do first is hop to my website here. I've got this fit into my movie window. Today we're going to work on some perspective environment details. I'm going to give you a drawing that's in perspective, and you're going to have to add certain things to it. Now, usually when I am there, what I do is distribute the file out to your network drive, but I'm not there today, so here's what you're going to have to do to retrieve the file. First of all, this little operation I'm about to show you is going to have to be done using Chrome. You're going to have to use Google Chrome. Do not use Internet Explorer to do this. I don't think Internet Explorer will handle the file correctly, so it's very important that you fire up Google Chrome. I think you can find it on your desktop or on the bottom of your computer screen in your taskbar. Just get Google Chrome going. Once you get Google Chrome going, I've already got it running. You need to get to My Big Campus and get logged in. I've already done that. So here we are. I'm in Google Chrome. I'm at mybigcampus.com. I've already logged in, and here we have the main screen. Now here's where you're going to find the file today. This is important. Watch this. You're going to go over here on the left-hand side. You may have to scroll this down a little bit, and you're going to look for the button that says Groups right here. Click it. And then every class that you're in gets, there's a group assigned for every class you're in. And so you may have to scroll this down to find the class that you're in right now, whether it's Graphics 1 or Graphics 2 or Graphics 5 or whatever it is. So you're going to have to find it, and it's going to have this Area 140 logo on it, so you can look for that. And as you scroll your way along, just make sure you're getting graphics, because some of you might be getting graphics and apps, so pay attention. So I'm going to use Graphics 1 as my demo, but it'd be the same for Graphics 2 or Graphics 5. Find your class, click that group. Now the next thing you're going to have to do is come over here to this tab that says Resources. Click there. Scroll it down a little bit, and you should see this file sitting right here, 6-3 Perspective Environment. It's an Adobe Illustrator file. So what you can do in Google Chrome is just click this link. Now watch carefully, especially watch on the bottom left-hand side down in this area, and I'm going to show you what's going to happen here. I'll click this link, and there was a little arrow that popped on down there, and at the bottom left-hand side of Google Chrome you'll see this button right here, and you can click this little arrow right next to this and say, I want to open that file. Now what's happening here is it's being downloaded into your Downloads folder. It's not going to your network drive, but it's going to your Downloads folder. If you were to click your Explorer folder, which is off of my movie screen right now, but it's going into this folder right here, over here in the Downloads. And you see that's it right there. That's the file that I just downloaded. I could even double click that right now and it would start in Illustrator. Or another way I can do this is like I was showing you a moment ago. I can come to this little arrow right here and say I want to open that file. Click there where it says open. That's going to fire up Illustrator, or just go straight to Illustrator, and there it is. We have it. All right, so it's important that you use Google Chrome, and that's how you're going to get your file today. All right, now let's take a look at this. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that we're going to work on doing on this, and some of these actually need no perspective, but some of them do need perspective, and I'm going to work my way from the top to the bottom. Now we're going to take this document right here and turn it into something that looks sort of like this. Okay, now you see some elements have been added to this. All right, so let's try this out. Well, the first one just says, let's add sky. Let's add sky to it. All right, no perspective involved in this. So here's how you can do sky with no perspective. Go get the rectangle tool. Look at the widget, the perspective widget here. You know, we've talked about left grid, right grid, horizontal grid. But if you click in the little circular area that's around the cube, don't click the cube, but just click in the circular area around the cube, you see that pop-up that says no active grid. Well, that's kind of what we want right now. We're just going to draw a rectangle. It's going to be our sky, and it's going to be we're not going to have perspective on it. So I'm just going to drag a rectangle from the top corner of this artboard down to the horizon line like that. Now, that black box, and you could do a night sky if you wanted to. I don't really care what color the sky is, but it's covering up the buildings. So what we need to do now is I'm going to take the black arrow and right click, arrange, and send to back. All right, and then, color it how you want to. And really, I don't care that much about the color today. You could fill it with a gradient if you want. You could just say, well, I'm just going to kind of do a light blue. That would be, you can do whatever you want as far as the color goes. If you want it to be a dark sky, that's okay, that's fine. All right, so really, that's all there is to the sky. Draw a big rectangle from the top down to the horizon line, and there we go. All right, so the sky is done. I'm even going to take this little text item over here and just hit delete and get rid of it. Let's go on to the next one. All right, the ground. Okay, well, this is going to have no perspective applied to it. It's just going to be a box. So I'll come get the rectangle tool. I'm going to make sure on the widget here that no active grid is selected. And I'm going to go just from the horizon line over to the bottom right corner of this file. And again, probably going to have to do this, select it and go right click, arrange, and send to back, because we don't want to cover up the buildings and things that we have in the image. All right, great. Now you can do whatever you want with color. I'm just going to make it kind of a gray color, maybe a little darker gray than that. Maybe not a darker gray, maybe a lighter gray. Okay, that's good enough. We'll go with that. All right, so that's it. That's we've done the ground. So I'm going to get rid of that that item. All right, a cloud with no perspective. Now there's a lot of ways you could do this. Here's how I'm going to do mine. Over here, I'm just going to take the ellipse tool, and I'm going to draw a white circle, no stroke on it. I'm going to take my black arrow tool and just kind of alt drag that a couple of times. Clouds aren't real perfect in their shape, so you kind of shape it the way you want. And you could either group it, I could just group that together. I could do object group, or I could go get the Pathfinder window and Pathfinder and unite, and that makes a pretty good cloud. So I can just park my cloud over here. Great. All right, cloud is done. Got it. All right, now I'm going to draw a street in here, and I'll show you how I'm going to draw the street. And don't sweat it too much if you don't get this all perfect, but I'm going to show you a little bit about drawing a street. All right, I'm going to take the pen tool. I'm going to come over here to the edge of the artboard. I'm not using any perspective on this. Again, I've got no active grid going on here. All right, so I'm just going to go kind of click, and I'm going to come down this way. I'm kind of following I'm going to click down here. All right, got that. I got that fixed here. So I'm just going to kind of come down here to the bottom of the artboard and click right there. And I'm going to click here. And there's a number of ways you could do this. I'm going to come over this way, and I'm just kind of following the red lines now. We're not really necessarily drawing in perspective. I'm just kind of following those grid lines as kind of a guide. And I'll come back over here and finish my shape. So really, that's just kind of a bunch of pen tool anchored clicks. Click, 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 and then back along here and click, click. So it looks like two streets that are coming from the left and from the right and joining there at the corner, and anything like that is going to be fine. I'm not going to be too picky about exactly what you come up with there. Just give it a shot. Try to use the pen tool and kind of click your way around and try to make a street. All right, so that one's done. Well, now we're getting into the part of this that involves some perspective work. And there are a couple of ways you could do this. And I'm going to show you, one way to handle it. This says one door. Okay, somewhere on one of these buildings, draw a doorway. All right. Well, that's going to be done with the rectangle tool. And I'm going to zoom in. And I'm also going to use those tools that we talked about in lesson number 2, the lesson about perspective text. I'm going to come over here and click and hold on this perspective grid tool. I'm going to click that little bar right there and tear that off, because I want that perspective selection tool to be available for me here. All right, well, here we go. I'm going to zoom in, and I think what I'm going to do is just put a doorway right. Move my Pathfinder here, move this over a little bit. I'm going to put a doorway right here on this gray building. All right, well, let's get the rectangle tool. And again, look at the grid. You got to study up on what grid is that gray wall on. Well, it's on the blue grid. So I've got my rectangle tool. I'm just going to go tell it I want the left grid, and I'll just click in here with my rectangle tool and draw a doorway. As long as I have the right grid, the correct grid turned on when I draw it, it's going to be fine. And that doorway could be any color I want it to be. You want a red door or whatever you want is okay. I'll zoom back a little bit so you can see that that doorway is now on that wall. It's in perspective. It's matching up with that wall. So when you draw these rectangular doors or windows or whatever you're making, just make sure you have the correct grid activated. And then it really is pretty easy after that. All right, so all you have to have is one doorway. Now, if you get involved in this and you want to add more than one, that's totally okay with me. Now, I'm going to come over here and get, I'll take care of this. One door in perspective, that's done. I'm going to delete that. All right, this says one window. We got to put a window on a building. Now, you got to have at least one, but I am going to show you a little trick here. I'm going to put some windows on this gray building over on this side. All right, well, let's zoom in on that a little bit. And I'm going to get the rectangle tool, and again, study it up some now. You look at it and say, what grid, that wall of that building, what grid is it aligned with? Well, it's aligned with the right grid, the red grid. So I'm going to come over here and click. I've got the rectangle tool, right grid, and I will just go ahead and draw a window. Now again, you could color that, you know, do whatever you want as far as color and stroke and all those kinds of things. You do whatever you'd like to do. Now, I do want to show you this. If you take the perspective selection tool, now don't try this with the regular selection tool, the black arrow, it won't work. But if you take the perspective selection tool and you alt drag that window, you can make copies that are in perspective. All right, they keep their perspective. And so I could have a whole row. I could alt drag and make another window down here, and it's going to stay in perspective with the grid. So this alt dragging trick works when you're drawing in perspective, as long as you're using the perspective selection tool to get the job done. All right, don't try to alt drag with the black arrow, because that isn't going to work. All right, well, I'm going to zoom back out a little bit because we're almost done. We're coming down the home stretch now, almost finished. All right, I'm just going to select this text here. It says one window, because I already did that. Actually, I made 4. But you only have to make 1. So I'm going to get rid of that. We have one job left to do, and that's a street sign, and we got to put it in perspective. Now, I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. I'm going to get the polygon tool. I'm going to come here and say, I don't want any perspective on this yet. Now watch how I do this. I'm going to turn the perspective grid to no active grid, no perspective on this right now. I'll take my polygon tool, click once in here, and I say, I want 8 sides. I'm thinking stop sign. You don't have to do a stop sign if you don't want to. All right, now there's my stop sign, and I'm going to fill it with red, and I could stroke it if I want to, and you know, you kind of do whatever you want as far as that goes. All right, you could even, I'm not going to do this, but you could even put the letters STOP on there if you wanted to. And you could totally do that. All right, now I'm going to come along and get the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a thin rectangle like this. And that's going to be filled with, I'm going to fill that with like a dark gray, and maybe stroke it with black. And then I just want to get that, that's like the pole of the stop sign, right? And I think it might look a little bit better if I say arrange and send it back. Okay, so there's my stop sign. Now I'm going to group that together because I want the hexagon, or the octagon and that rectangle to stay together. So I'm just going to get them selected and do Control G or Object Group. Now, how do I get them into perspective? Well, okay, it's the same trick as what we did with text. Here's what you do. Go get your perspective selection tool. Pick the grid you want. Like I'm going to stick it on the right grid. Grab that group and drag it in. And then size it the way you want to size it. And I've got a street sign. Take a quick look at it with Control-Shift-I. Bingo. All finished. Now all that's left is to save this and then turn it in on my big canvas. If you just click File and Save, it might be in your Downloads folder, or you could do File and Save As and stick it on your network drive and then turn it in from there. Hey folks, that's it. Jump in and give it a shot.